Well, today's a great day because I have the NSX and we're going to have some fun with it, taking it up into the mountains, but also trying it in the city because Acura calls this the human-centered supercar, which is kind of what they did with the first NSX. I can remember driving that as a test car. Yeah, I've been doing this long enough to do that. And my clearest memories of the original NSX were the way that the car drove. It was so easy to drive. It was like the rest of the Acura family. Very comfortable on the inside. Everything worked really well. It was sporty. It was sleek, but it was also functional and turned out to be incredibly reliable and now quite collectible. So fast forward to this latest all-new NSX and they picked up where they left off. They call it the human-centered supercar. And we're going to put that to the test. We're going to try the performance aspects of the car first and then drive it in mundane city traffic to see if you could live with it every single day. Now, it has the same kind of sleek look as the original NSX with the big windscreen, which is a hallmark of this car, low and wide. In fact, when they designed this latest NSX, they designed it to have the ground clearance of some of the most popular sports cars, and it does go over mild speed bumps with absolutely no problem, so it's got that part of everyday driving covered. It's got a large enough trunk around the back. You can actually put groceries and an overnight bag in there, no problem. Mid-engine design and sleek looks. Now, the car you're looking at today has some nice add-ons, mostly carbon fiber, a package on the outside that gets you the chin spoiler in the front, the sills down the side, and the diffuser along the bottom where you see the quad exhaust pipes. Also, this car has the optional carbon rear spoiler and the carbon roof. It also comes with ceramic brakes with the red calipers. These are all add-ons. The regular brakes are regular iron brakes. And we're going to get into the braking in a moment because we're not going to start in the city. We're going to try the sport of this sports car out first in the mountains. Let's go for a drive. Just like that, we're a few hundred kilometers north of Vancouver, actually north of Whistler, on one of the best roads in Canada, the Duffy Lake Road, with switchbacks just like that. Now, we get to find out what kind of real sports car credentials this NSX has. Well, what we have is a dynamic mode here in the center. We're going to go from quiet, we don't need quiet, to Sport Plus. This car even has a track mode, and we'll put it in manual transmission, and away we go. Listen to that. There was so much technology packed into this car, and you can hear the first part of it, and that is the engine that is right behind the firewall here, a mid-engine sports car, supercar. The engine that you hear is actually the same engine that you'd get in an Acura MDX. This one is hand assembled, and what they do with the engine is they actually balance it full of fluid and break it in outside of the car before it's married to the body. So the engine is perfectly balanced and then tuned and then put in the NSX. Now, it is the same block, but it isn't exactly the same engine as you would get in your MDX. This has two turbochargers bolted on top of it, and it produces 500 horsepower. That's incredible out of a 3.5 liter V6 engine. Then you have all the electronics that are on board. And I'm not just talking about your typical electronics like traction and stability control. Of course, this car has that. What it has is a hybrid system. In the front, powering the front wheels, is a dual electric system. Basically, two individual electric motors, one for the left, one for the right, and that gives you a whole bunch of options when it comes to handling and power. So 500 horsepower from the 3.5 liter twin turbo V6, and then an additional 73 horsepower from the battery and the electric motors. And what that does, it gives you all kinds of torque when you need it and all kinds of handling ability when you want it. For example, coming up to a corner now, you brake into the corner, and what's happening is the inside wheel, the electric motor, then actually acts as a regenerative braking and helps pull you through the corner. And then when you accelerate out of the corner, then the power can also go to the front wheels. On some of these twisty roads, even if you get the back end to step out a little bit, The front electric motors are helping pull you through the corner. It's amazing technology. So you have the best of both worlds. You've got a efficient 3.5 liter V6, a hybrid system that's giving you the best of traction and stability. It's super handling all-wheel drive taken up to the next level. Now I mentioned that the 3.5 liter V6 is available in the MDX, so is this hybrid system. So what Acura does is they flip it around. In the MDX, the electric motors are in the back. With this NSX, they're in the front. It's also available in the full-size RLX sedan as well. So it's hybrid technology that delivers all-wheel drive, super handling all-wheel drive, and also a real torque vectoring in the corners. Individual motors giving you either braking or acceleration to help get you in and out of the corners with absolutely no problem at all. So the transmission, here I'll show you the shifts. Are super quick. Now that is fast. Also, when you hit that dynamic mode, it changes the steering feel. It's heavier, and the brakes really are fantastic. Even though you have the regenerative braking that's giving you braking force, the pedal never feels dead. It has a really solid feel to it. Doesn't feel mushy, which is what you expect with some hybrid vehicles. But in this supercar application, the brakes are fantastic. So it has the sports car credentials. 573 horsepower, check. All-wheel drive, check. Advanced hybrid technology, check. Great handling, check. Fabulous braking, check. Now it's time to check out if it really is an everyday supercar. Back to the city. And just like that, we're back in the city. And what does the city mean? Stop and go traffic. You know what? I've been in this car, I'm looking at the clock now, about 4.5 hours. And the one thing I can tell you about the NSX that isn't the case with the vast majority of exotic cars, comfort. And that's the one thing I remember about the original NSX. It was so comfortable, it was so easy to drive, and they've done kind of the same thing here. It really is incredibly comfortable. We'll start with the seat and the headroom. When they designed this car, they designed the roofline to make sure it fit like 95+% of individuals. And then the seats themselves, very comfortable. They come with a bunch of different options. The one we have here are leather with the Alcantara inserts and power operated. And I have had zero issues. I don't have the best back, but zero issues with comfort. And then there's the actual space inside. One thing that is really, really quite rare in an exotic car is legroom. Being able to stretch your left leg out all the way is quite rare because often the front wheels encumber the amount of cabin space. Now it's easier to show you on the passenger side. When you climb inside, you have a lot of space side to side, front and back, so there's plenty of room. The armrests are big, and they're perfectly matched from side to side. You would think this is pretty common stuff to think about, but I have to tell you, if you've ever driven any exotic cars, comfort typically isn't a selling feature, but with this car, you get all that fun I just showed you, but you can also get the comfort of driving this every day in every situation. You know, we're sitting in sort of stop and go traffic, and this car, when you put it into its different settings, can do quite a few things. First of all, it can actually crawl along. We're crawling along right now in EV mode. So as I move up and I stop and I move up and I stop, the engine isn't on at all. I'm just using the electric motors and the battery for stop and go traffic. Makes it very, very comfortable. On top of that, you have the quiet mode, which switches off two of the exhaust. Say you're waking up first thing in the morning and you're heading to work and you don't want to wake everybody up in the house, it drives quietly. Then of course, as I showed you earlier, you have Sport, Sport Plus, and even track mode. But what you also get is a familiarity on the inside. You get into this car, the head unit's the same, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all of the latest technology. Then you get into the materials in here, beautiful leather. Like if you look in front of where I'm sitting now, you get carbon fiber over the instrument cluster, leather on the dash, Alcantara, and beautiful aluminum accents. Now this car does have the optional carbon interior finish, but even without that, it would be first rate. Then you have leather throughout the cabin, beautiful stitching, the center console covered in leather, the tops of the doors covered in leather, and then the combination of the Alcantara. So they refer to this as a human-centered supercar. Well, the human has to be comfortable, and that they have down. Even things like the cup holders clip into the side here of the center console. You can remove those and store them in the glove box, no problem at all. But one of the things that is really rare with mid-engine exotic cars, really rare, is good outward visibility. So they have the interior nailed when it comes to comfort, but outward visibility is just as good. That was one of the things I clearly remember about the original NSX with the huge windscreen, and they've replicated that with this new updated version. Massive windscreen, lots of outward visibility, very thin A-pillars. A lot of engineering went into making these A-pillars here as thin as possible. Nice big mirrors that stick out far, and visibility out the back isn't encumbered in any way. In fact, driving this car, after a while, you forget what it looks like on the outside, because the inside is like every other car that they make. Excellent visibility, well put together. It's surprising how you can make a car look this dynamic, but also still offer all the things that people want, which is surprising why some other brands don't do that at all. So for me, the real test of a car is, as I drove it over the week, did I enjoy it more? And the more I got to know about the NSX, the more I understand what the philosophy was, and the more I enjoyed it. It certainly is fast with 573 horsepower, but what does it cost? In the Canadian market, it starts at $189,900. The one you see here with the optional carbon package, not only on the outside, but the inside, the roof and the rear spoiler, plus those ceramic brakes, pumps the price up to about $227,000. But when you compare this to other vehicles in this class, it's very competitive and is beautifully put together. The more I drove it, the more I liked it. One big thing, it's comfortable, and you certainly can't say that about a lot of supercars.